All right, let's jump right in. We really need to talk about how artificial intelligence is fundamentally changing our concept of truth, and about the looming information war that's expected to hit hard in 2026. This goes way beyond just fake news. We're talking about a complete shift in the fabric of our reality. And it all really starts with this one phrase, one that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, but is, believe me, dangerously real: an epistemic weapon. It's a term researchers are using now, and it describes a totally new kind of threat. It's not aimed at a physical target, but at our collective ability to even know what's true. Okay, so let's break that down. An epistemic weapon isn't just trying to get you to believe one single lie. No, its goal is much bigger. It's designed to completely dismantle the process you use to decide what's true in the first place. By just flooding our social media feeds and news sites, these AI models can, sometimes subtly and sometimes not, push a very specific worldview. And in doing so, they can change how entire societies see the world. So how exactly does this new era of deception work? Well, it's not just one thing. It operates on a few different levels, from the psychological all the way down to the technological. A huge part of the strategy is something experts are calling the nihilism trap. And it's a pretty corrosive four-step process. First, you get hit with a constant, overwhelming barrage of misinformation. Then, as a natural defense mechanism, your brain just starts to shut down. You begin to believe nothing at all. That leads to step 3, a kind of political apathy, where trust in everything just erodes. And finally, with no shared truth to stand on, the very foundation of a functioning democracy just crumbles. And you can really see how much the threat has evolved on this slide. The tactic itself, dehumanizing an opponent, that's as old as conflict itself. You know, on the left, you've got historical propaganda, like a single radio broadcast trying to reach a big crowd. But on the right, that's where you see how AI just puts this whole thing on steroids. Instead of one broadcast, you're talking about relentless, personalized deepfakes delivered instantly to millions of different people, each one tailored to push their specific buttons. And here's the absolute kicker. The cost to produce all of this industrial-scale deception, it's plummeted. We're talking practically zero. What used to require the massive resources of a government can now be done by a small group or even one person with a powerful algorithm. This democratization of disinformation is a total game changer. So the danger here goes even deeper. We're witnessing the potential collapse of a consensus reality, where objective facts just get drowned out by emotional appeals. On top of that, these AI models can have hidden political biases that are incredibly hard to spot. And maybe worst of all, there's a negative feedback loop. The more junk AI content that floods the internet, the more that junk gets used to train the next generation of AI, basically polluting the well for years to come. Which brings us to a very real, very close stress test for all of us, the 2026 midterm elections. Now, it won't be the first election with AI floating around, but it might just be the first one where these epistemic weapons are fully mature and ready to go. So, why 2026? Well, because the bad actors have had time to learn. They watched what worked and what didn't in 2024, and now they're refining their AI tactics. Experts are bracing for far more sophisticated and targeted attacks, all designed to manipulate public opinion in ways we just haven't seen before. Okay, so that's the threat. But it's not all doom and gloom. A counterattack is already well underway. So let's take a look at the new digital defenses and regulations that are being deployed to fight back. First up is detection. The early AI detectors, well, they could be fooled pretty easily with simple word swaps. But the new tools are a whole lot smarter. They perform what's called structural analysis, looking at the patterns, the rhythms, the feel of the writing, all the stuff that's much, much harder for an AI to fake consistently. And the fight is also coming directly to the devices you hold in your hand. Unveiled at CES 2026, companies like Gen and Intel are rolling out on-device deepfake detection. What that means is your phone or your computer can spot manipulated video or audio in real time without ever having to send your data to the cloud. So it's fast and it's private. We're also getting something you could call a digital nutrition label for content. It's a new standard called Content Credentials, or C2PA, and it's being fast-tracked to become an international ISO standard. You'll start seeing this little CR icon on images and videos. You click it, and you get the file's entire origin story, what parts were made by a human and what was generated by AI. And that brings us to the next level of defense, making watermarks that are almost impossible to remove. Google's SynthID embeds an invisible signal right into the pixels of an image or the waveforms of an audio file. And the brilliant part is that this watermark actually survives common edits like cropping, resizing, or compressing the file, which makes it way harder for bad actors to just scrub it away. Of course, the law is scrambling to catch up, and 2026 is a huge year for that. On January 1st, California's AI Transparency Act kicked in. Then we saw the new consumer tech at CES. And by August, the massive EU AI Act becomes legally binding, with some seriously huge fines for companies that don't comply. But if you zoom out and look at the whole world, the picture gets pretty complicated. As you can see here, the EU is going all in on a comprehensive, risk-based approach that's now being enforced. In the US, it's a totally different story, a lot of conflict between federal and state efforts. And on the international stage, you've got a separate convention focused more on human rights that's trying to build a global consensus. It's a real patchwork of different strategies. So where does all of this leave us? Well, it leaves us smack dab in the middle of an ongoing arms race. For every new detection tool that's created, someone else will be working on a new way to evade it. This isn't a problem with a single final solution. And that really brings us to the most important point of all. Technology can absolutely help, but it can't be the whole answer. As this quote makes crystal clear, even with the best AI tools to sort through this flood of information, the final line of defense has to be us. Human verification and good old-fashioned critical thinking are more important now than ever before. And that leaves us with the defining question of our time. In an age where reality itself can be synthesized, where any image, video, or piece of text can be convincingly faked, how do we as a society agree on what is fundamentally true? That's the challenge we're all facing.